Welcome to Faith and Freedom. For the next few minutes, we hope to inform, inspire, and encourage you as we discuss the legal victories and challenges to your fundamental freedoms and religious liberties. Faith and Freedom comes to you from Liberty Counsel, a civil liberties education and legal defense organization. Join us now as Matt Staver, the President and General Counsel of Liberty Counsel, explains the latest legal issues all across this country in the courtrooms of America. Liberty Counsel is winning the battle for your constitutional freedoms.
Gay activists demanding open homosexual behavior in the armed services chained themselves to the White House fence for the umpteenth time. I'm Matt Barber, Director of Cultural Affairs with Liberty Counsel and Associate Dean with Liberty University School of Law, in for Matt Staver today. And joining me again in studio is Shawn Akers, Dean of the Helms School of Government and Policy Analyst with Liberty Counsel. Well, Shawn, there's a group of homosexual activists organized by a band of individuals calling themselves Get Equal that have been campaigning for the repeal, if you will, of Don't Ask, Don't Tell, really have been campaigning for people who define their identities based upon homosexual behavior to be allowed to serve and engage in those behaviors openly in the armed services. Over and over again in the past year or so, they have, as a show of protest, chained themselves to the White House fence so that they could be arrested and without fail, in each and every instance, the media, like the liberal lapdogs they are, show up with their cameras in hand and give this band of rebels, if you will, their the coverage that they and the attention that they so seek and the publicity that they're trying to garner. It's happened once again, and again, the liberal media went and made hay out of it. But this is primarily to protest a couple of things. The High Court recently refusing to block a federal judge's order that to repeal Don't Ask, Don't Tell, or for armed services commanders to ignore Don't Ask, Don't Tell. The High Court said no, it needs to remain in place. We refuse to uphold that order to allow, essentially compel the Pentagon to start allowing open homosexuality in the armed services. Secondly, this is a last-ditch effort, a push during this lame duck Congress to try to once again get Harry Reid, Nancy Pelosi, and others to push through the repeal as an attachment to the armed services bill, to the defense spending bill. They have cynically once again attached this to the armed services bill. There's a good chance that it is going to be taken off of that. John McCain and others are demanding that it be removed. Otherwise, the military essentially will not get its funding. Well, this group is demanding that instead it be passed, and we shouldn't be surprised, but the clock is ticking, and it seems that Harry Reid and others, there may not be the initiative there with liberals, particularly Democrats in Congress, to take another political hit if the defense authorization bill goes down.
You know, Matt, that's one of the beautiful things about living in the United States. If you have an opinion, no matter how unpopular or illogical, you are perfectly free to share that opinion with folks. However, if you chain yourself to the gate of the White House, you're going to be arrested and probably charged with a felony.
If you happen to be in the armed services, you should be court-martialed. You're disobeying orders. You're breaking the law. This is an illegal act on these people, not an act of civil disobedience, especially if they are currently serving in the armed services. That just shows that they don't have the character to serve in the armed services. If they're going to wantonly disobey commands, it shows that they are really not qualified to serve in the armed services if they're not going to take orders, and the military breaks down when we have rogue individuals running off and saying, demanding that they get their way. That's not how the military works.
I do find it interesting that you and I both have friends that have been arrested for praying in front of the White House without chaining themselves to the gate, but these folks have to literally do something that drastic to get arrested in these cases. Fact is, Matt, that they're going to have a very tough time pushing this through even in a lame duck session right now because the American people spoke so loudly. If you've ever asked whether your vote matters, take a look at this last election and see how much it mattered, because thousands of pockets, this was not a one big national election of a president, thousands of hundreds of pockets of voters made a tremendous difference by putting in a very socially conservative slate of new senators and congressmen. And the fact is that those even in this lame duck, the voice of the people was so loud that the political downside of ramming through something that is very unpopular, that the American people don't want, that the military doesn't want, that nobody wants except for a very small but vocal minority, the policy pressures, the political pressures are just too high right now.
Yeah, well, this is the closest we've ever come, essentially, to homosexualizing the military and really placing at risk those brave men and women serving in the armed services, the majority of whom they're recruited from conservative parts of the country. The vast majority of individuals serving in the armed services typically hold traditional values when it comes to sex and sexuality. Not to say that there isn't, fornication and promiscuity and adultery and so forth, even homosexuality that occurs in the arms of the ranked services. Yes, of course, those things occur, but it doesn't mean that the armed services and the government needs to give its stamp of approval on sexual sin, essentially holding hostage those who disapprove of what every major world religion, thousands of years of history and uncompromising human biology have coldly rejected. There's a zero tolerance policy in the armed services. If they homosexualize the military, it is a complete 180. It completely flips the policy. Pastors, chaplains will be forced to deny scriptural truths relative to sexual morality. The married housing, you can count in short order with homosexuals living next door to families, two men who claim to be married, so-called married gay marriage, living next to families, natural families with kids and so forth. It really creates. There is no benefit that can be. Even proponents can't really cite any benefits. They simply say that it's about equality. Well, that's not the case at all. In fact, we know demonstrably that it will harm troop morale, unit cohesion. It harms the military and the mission at hand, which, as Rush Limbaugh often says, is to kill people and blow things up. Our military has to be precision. We don't need this type of San Francisco-style social experimentation in the ranks of the armed services. It puts national security at risk in the name of furthering political correctness, and it's just mind-boggling.
Well, Matt, if there's one thing that should be apparent, just as a matter of common sense to the American people, it's that the military is not a place for, as you put it, social experimentation. It's there to protect us. And Elaine Donnelly, a friend of yours and mine, has done a tremendous amount of research on this issue. And one of the things that struck me was the research she's done on the likely number of folks in the military who have declared their intent not to re-enlist or have responded negatively, saying that they would not re-enlist, were don't ask, don't tell to be reversed. So you're looking at a time when we face threats in a brand new way, Matt. The level of the kind of warfare that we face under a post 9/11 context is entirely different than anything we've ever faced as a nation before. When we've got several rogue nations that are quickly moving toward nuclear technology that would make them a true threat to us, you're looking at a time when our military is becoming increasingly important, and now it's just not the time. If there's really never a time, but now is an absolutely absurd time to be pushing on social experimentation that brings on inherent weakness in the military.
Well, a 2008 Military Times survey asked the question, should Don't Ask, Don't Tell be repealed? And if it is, what will you do? 10% of currently enlisted said they would get out. Another 14% said they would consider getting out. That's up to a 24% exodus from our armed services. That would be disastrous. Now, there's a new survey, if you can even call it that, that proponents have put together of lifting the ban. They don't even ask the question, should Don't Ask, Don't Tell be lifted. It's basically a push poll intended to be able to arrive at some answers and suggest that the military is ready to embrace homosexualization. But that's a completely flawed survey. It hasn't even come out, but many leaks are coming out. It's not worth the paper, essentially, from my understanding of what's already in there and the questions that were and were not asked. It's not even worth the paper it's written on. Folks, at Liberty Counsel, we stand up for traditional rights and for those serving in the armed services who hold biblical views of sexual morality, and we are going to continue to defend them against the homosexualization of the armed services. Go to lc.org to learn how you can help, or give us a call at 1-800-671-1776. Become a part of the Liberty Counsel mission today.
You have been listening to Matt Staver of Liberty Counsel. Our hope is to encourage and inspire you to stand up for your faith, family, and freedoms. We can accomplish a lot when we work together. Get informed and get involved today. Sign up for our free monthly newsletter, The Liberator. We will send it out to you free of charge. Stay informed with our Liberty Alert email update. Just click on the website at www.lc.org or call us at 1-800-671-1776. Tune in next time to learn more about your rights right here on Faith and Freedom.